open space and active space, and
There can be reduction.
right.
Yes.
We like that flexibility, but you're still needing some kind of a standard in there.
Right, for a
Just the word
minimum.
start,
For a
starting point.
And you're saying 40% is pretty much what?
In between 30 and 40%.
At least Summit has 40.
Lee Summit has 40 all the way across the board.
Just go 35, so.
You can do that, this model ordinance says that, 35.
35.
All right, y'all want to do 35?
Well, what's realistic? I mean, is that realistic
Can you do
from
35?
a builder perspective?
If we do 40%, then it makes the building coverage 60%.
Well, here's the deal, you know, you go
Well,
on,
that's true too.
you're on two-family here, you know, on townhomes, you're gonna have, especially if they're gonna be individual condominiumized, so all the property around it's basically gonna be green space area, you're gonna have more open space than what you would for, let's say for an apartment complex, which, you know, just counting the streets and everything else, you just, I don't know.
I guess I like the 40% because
Yeah.
Mr. Allen said it's consistent, because we're saying 60%
60-40.
building coverage.
And-
You're doing a 60-40, that to me is easier math
And
than doing the
the thing that we can
35.
get easily confused with is that open space does not mean green space.
Right, it can be.
It means open, it means something not building or
Okay.
a parking lot.
What you
Right.
guys are used to
But
now is developers with the
50%.
bike trails
Oh,
and
absolutely,
and the
but 50% of that,
gazebos and-
if I'm not, has to be active.
And that's where you have some different
So you got
definitions.
20% of that's gonna be,
It could be trails, it could be anything that's essentially,
Picnic table, it could even be a basketball court in some places.
what if you taken a, say you've got, I'm just hypothetical, say you got a 3-4 acre lot that you're doing a two-family, because mostly anymore your two-family is gonna be your smaller lots. Are we gonna be able to get that type of percentages out of it?
From-
With having a detention basin or whatever else?
level
From-
count.
Yeah, and,
So you're saying half of that, if you get half of it
As
is.
active.
that, from what I looked at from other communities, it's worked out well. It's worked out just fine. And they've been incorporating a lot of rebuilding practices, like, for example, the cluster development, in order to, you know, bring open that space.
But your cluster development is gonna be a larger development,
Mhm.
not a,
Oh, but with the two-family, it's still doable. I'm not gonna draw a board.
There's dry erase marker.
I'm still not
It
doing
is
it,
that way.
I scrubbed that thing.
and will a PUD or RP allow us to have concessions on that, on smaller pieces of
That's what it
property?
looks like. If reductions are granted to minimum lot area for dwelling unit, minimum of X must be developed as town open space.
If you just look at it spatially, this is 60-40.
Mhm.
So this is all your building, this is here. And now, and this would just be building coverage.
And you're actually reducing it. Currently, we have 40% maximum. Now you're going to have 60% maximum. So actually,
And the 60%
compared to our current
is
ordinance, there's
both
less.
paving and building, yeah. So when you look at it spatially, it looks more doable than just picking up the numbers, I think.
But you're still worried about the 50% active.
Oh, but with
That-
the,
that's
okay,
what I'm more
right,
worried about
and then
than
you
anything.
split that 40,
Yeah.
and this would be active. Oops, this would be passive. Now, the active and passive, if we go to the
Definitions of that, yeah.
definitions of active,
It looks like
it'll,
it's second
yeah.
page, is it?
Yeah, it's back where the calculations were, it's on that same page.
Where? Oh, yes. I think I have right here,
And
Page 2 or 3.
Exercise, walking.
sports,
Yeah.
exercise, or play. Many municipalities define active space in the ways that they, you know, choose. Some places have much more active open space, like literally basketball courts, tennis courts. Some people,
Well,
cities.
On the larger property, I'm worried about people that are, these infills on 5 acres. That's what I'm more concentrated on. On two-family, you're gonna, that's where you're gonna go into. If anybody even does any two families anymore. I mean, I don't know many people that's gonna do two-family
Well, you know
units.
what? Look at
It's
Lee
all gonna be
Summits, because
fourplexes, but-
Lee Summits is 40%, but when you're, explain to us again the difference between what Lee Summit had and Olathe had for open space, because you liked the flexibility, Michael, but maybe we should just go, explain this Lee Summit's code. They've got 40% overall open space, but 10% of it, how
That's
much
correct.
has to be
It's,
passive, how much has to be active in Lee Summit?
a minimum of 10% has to be passive in Lee Summit.
Is it
Minimum.
passive?
Yeah, it has to be passive. But if you wanna make the whole thing passive, you can. Yeah. We don't necessarily have to go with Olathe code where it says 50% has to be active, so that you're not feeling, kind of cubby-holden into having to figure out where people are gonna play, or run, or jog, but in Lee Summit, you have the option of making that whole 40% passive, but a minimum of 10% has to be passive. I think that Lee Summit was maybe having more issues of, more places wanting to make that entire 40% active, like filling it with picnic tables and trails,
Gazebo and trail and
basketball
done.
courts and
And
tennis
no-
courts.
No green space.
Well, see, and I see what Michael is saying. If you have somebody who's doing a project, and it's not a big, huge project, and it's gonna be duplexes, they're not gonna wanna build for
They
10
can't afford to put
units.
in
Right.
basketball courts.
So, actually, these summits would work better for smaller projects, where Olathes would work better for larger
So,
projects. I actually like Lee Summits better, because I think that it's actually more flexible than Olathes, because it's got less rules. All you gotta do is 40% open space, and 10% at least has to be passive. What do y'all think?
You 10% active.
It could be
Still
10%
wanted- you could-
active. It could
Again,
be
that's a pretty
40%
nice-
active.
If you wanted to still have an active component regardless, you can make it 10%.
Well, and I just think for smaller projects, I mean, it's just not gonna be
Yeah.
economically feasible to put in a basketball court and tennis courts if you've got, small infill development of
Right.
duplexes. As long as it's got, 40% open space, I think it'll be a quality project.
Exactly.
So do we wanna go with Lee Summits on that and switch it?
If you do Lee Summits for, just for the two-family, then you do something different for the rest. If you think with the big
Well,
projects
we've
are
got
gonna
the
have
same
more
issue,
active.
you still got active space
Still got
issue
active space on.
on all of it. And if it's, let's say, somebody's doing an infill development with just,
Yeah. That's a good point, Phil. Yeah, I'm trying to make that work.
Well, a lot of times with infill that's happening now, you're not putting in so much multifamily, it's converting a lot to more single family, because you're
Yeah.
encouraging families to move into infill areas, rather than redevelop into,
But I could see what you're saying, the duplexes could fit in there because like the downtown code has the, vertical duplex
Mhm.
or front to back, and you could fit something in there that looks like a single family, that isn't.
Well, what are we more concerned about? I guess the bottom line is, are we more concerned about providing green space for multifamily developments, or are we more concerned about having active activities? I mean, that's kind of the question here. If we want to have more amenities for apartment complexes, then Olathe is better. If we're more concerned with providing green space.
Well, now you're getting into apartment complexes, you're getting on higher density. So on the higher density ones, you can look at doing a higher percentage on that. But on these smaller ones,
So then do we
most likely any larger properties, we're gonna go, some type of mixed development in there anyway. So we're going to, the whole community is gonna be spread out for the walkability, the
So you're just wanting to.
accessibility as well.
Well, and I'm thinking the low density too.
10% of total land area, that's all
And,
you're
well,
wanting to do.
well, no, it's
two-family.
40% open space. And what you're doing is you're not making so much of it having to be active. I actually think these summits would be better for the low-density multifamily and for the duplexes. And then when you get to the bigger developments, which have higher density, the medium and the high density.
I was looking at the two families, because I thought that's what we were starting with.
Yeah, that's what we're on.
Well, we're kind of having them all,
So,
yeah.
I mean, because there is, there's this, in my mind, a significant difference between what we had started with. We have nothing. At least it's 10%, and then you look at Lake, and then you look at our